Coming up in today's podcast. To expand on that and say that the vision surveys that have been going around right now, right, you'll see on your screen what I'm talking about. Don't fill those out. Like, you guys should not be giving the people inside there this much of your financial information. You don't have to do it. And if they come back at you, just keep throwing what their website says, what the podcasts say, what all the Daily Telegraph articles say. You are your own person, and the brethren have nothing to do with your finances.
Recently heard of the following event. A PBCC member was having issues with his Streamline device. He took it into a UBT office to get someone from UBT to look into it in person. The guy at UBT observed the symptoms on the device, then said, "I'll just check if this one is one of the devices we're currently surveilling."
I could go on and on about this email. Like, I'm very appreciative to all the insiders that help us out. But again, here it is. Another insider pulling back the curtain. Proof the election push was anything but spontaneous. A massive, tightly controlled campaign effort, right down to drinking at the pub and handing out middle finger stickers. Coordinated, controlled, and completely at odds with their own separation from the world doctrine. I guess that rule didn't apply when the goal was political power or beer and stickers. Welcome to the Get a Life podcast. Explore survivor stories. Uncover the hidden truths. Join our X-Call conversations. You matter, and so does your story.
Hi, Bruce. Recently you said in a meeting that you know some people want to leave and that they should come and table it with you, talk it over, etc. Then you say, but where would you go? There's nowhere else to go. Seriously, what a load of bullshit. Do you realize how diluted that sounds? There's plenty of places to go if that's what people want. But here's another thought that might not have occurred to you. Some people don't want to go somewhere else exactly. They simply want to get away from the PBCC bullshit and live a quiet, simple life. A life where they can simply live quietly, not doing anything evil like you suggest. Free from the needless stress and religious politics, free from the utter BS that is spouted on a daily basis, free to put all the PBCC stuff behind them and move on. Free to actually live life in peace. That's all. Anything wrong with that? I'll await your answer. I love that. That was simple, to the point, and yeah, that is absolutely awesome.
But I mean, most of these people, again, we're talking about the grassroots brethren. They just want a normal Christian meeting.
I think one of the interesting points is this person points out, and this is something I've been stressing for ages, is it talks about not really going anywhere, right? You don't want to go somewhere else exactly. It's true, because they always talk about that in the cult of leaving and going into the world. Really, you don't have to go anywhere. You just stop attending and you stop buying into the propaganda.
Yeah, they may just want to breathe for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah. Okay, the next email says, Bruce, I've been hearing about one of your global henchmen enforcer up in our part of the world lately. He blindly does whatever you say, regardless of whether it's right, honest, accurate, or Christian. A concerned brother recently questioned him about this, knowing that a lot of what this henchman is doing on your behalf simply isn't right or Christian. But he just shrugged it off and continues to blindly do what you say, causing damage and hurt in the meantime. But I think I see why, Bruce. You see, this man does a stack of business with other PBCC businesses. So much so that it forms a significant percentage of his revenue. Without it, his business would take a serious dive. And if he dared contradict or challenge you, his standing in the PBCC would plummet. He might even get given the boot, and many PBCC customers would desert him. Now remind me, how is this Christian? It's not, is it, Bruce? When will you admit that the PBCC are no longer a Christian church, but instead it's a cult? The cult of Bruce. PBCC. Prince Bruce Corporate Cult. Everybody knows it. You might as well admit it. Regards, an insider whose eyes have been opened.
Prince Bruce Corporate Cult. I
Cult, I know,
that.
eh? Right. And here's the next email.
I reckon now is a good time to post a Facebook message telling the peeps that right now is a good time to start enjoying life properly and bringing some serious passive resistance. Thieves are currently under a ton of public scrutiny, which makes them extremely wary and reluctant to discipline and anyone breaking the rules. They're shit scared of more public scrutiny. So now is a great time to start enjoying life like it's meant to be enjoyed. Go and buy what you want, go where you want, and do what you want. Skip meetings, skip those recordings, book vacations in nice places, go camping, get out and enjoy life properly, because there's very little chance the hierarchy can do anything about it at the moment. And who knows, you might discover what true life is really like. To paraphrase Dr. Seuss, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself in any direction you choose. If you never broke away, you should. These things are fun, and fun is good. And unless someone like you starts resisting the plot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Enjoy.
I love that.
That's great. And it's so true, because now is the time to go and break the rules and have fun, because they're under a swamp of negative media that's telling the truth about them, and they're too busy trying to deal with that than they are with
go and do all the things that that Bruce Ailes' son said they did.
Exactly
right. And they go on holidays, they have hobbies, all those things that we've been told you can't have. And here's another one. I had lunch with someone the other day who confessed their misgivings about the whole system, then revealed how many others they know who feel the same and want to leave. It was incredible hearing how many others are feeling so strongly about it. And we're not just talking about people on the edge, but some people who have been staunchly loyal. Distressed at how it's become a cult and how Christianity is very much a facade and way down the list of priorities. And comments like, how could a so-called man of God say that someone should drink rat poison if they want to leave, then have it published in white books all around the world? Then the financial legal repercussions from that, which we have to pay for in our Sunday collections. When Sydney puts out a call for more money for the Fighting Fund, it's just sickening. And how they feel distraught that they've given all their lives to this cult and now desperately want to leave, but knowing that not all their family will follow. So the family would be broken up again. These are parents, grandparents, etc. And more coming out of the woodwork in quiet. Feel free to publish this if you want. Oh yeah, here's another arranged marriage one.
Bruce, can you quit your hobby of arranging marriages? Here, we know you say publicly it doesn't happen, but everybody knows that in many cases there is significant influence and pressure behind the scenes to make things happen. It's arranged marriages in all but name. Sometimes the pressure is such that the couple just cave in and tie the knot, thinking they're doing the right thing. But you know what happens as a result? It becomes a grudge marriage, not a true love marriage. Relationships sour as they remember who influenced them to marry each other. And you've just taken two people who are enjoying single life to say 90+% happiness and reduce them to sometimes near zero happiness. And now they're stuck, which is what you want, isn't it? But that's not Christianity. That's not how life is meant to be. We know you take pride in it, naming couples that you've put together, but it needs to stop. Just quit interfering in people's lives. Same message to all your henchmen around the world too. Leave us alone.
Love it.
Bruce, you often refer to giving people a rebuke and that they have to learn to take it, or words to that effect. In Christian scriptural terms, I agree. There are many scriptures that refer to this. But in your deluded world, you weaponize this to give you and your henchmen the right to say whatever they like to people. And people just have to swallow it, regardless of whether it's right or wrong, whether it's kind, i.e. Christian, or unkind and unjustified. It's basically a get-out-of-jail-free card to humiliate and bully people, often brutally and publicly. This is typical of how you and your cohort work, isn't it? Bullying people around. Where has the simple Christianity gone, Bruce? What have you done with it?
That one makes me want to cry.
Yeah, they love bullying, right? And but, I would say that they use scripture for anything, right? So they'll try and use scripture for bullying as well, the staff and the rod and all that stuff, right? They'll use that to back themselves up.
Yeah, that whole picture of that podcast seen them, those five at that table, and Lloyd Grimshaw at the end of it, he just got an evil smirk to him, looks like some German ruler, and those four boys sitting around there. It's just a picture of power, and those guys have got the power, along with their dad, to destroy someone's life. And if anyone in there was to say, "Hey, this isn't right. What you're saying is not right," they've got the power to just demolish their life. They either have to back down and say, "No, I'm sorry. Well, it was not right," or they can demolish that person's life and destroy their family. And they're trying to come across as these simple guys with little businesses, just trying to get through life. That
they're just humble, right? Authentic. They're just trying to just paint it on. The funny thing is there's so much dirt I have on Lloyd Grimshaw. One day I cannot wait to do that podcast. He is not the person everybody thinks he is. That man has a closet so deep down, it's like jumping into Hermione's purse on Harry Potter. It just keeps going and going and going and going. One day, Lloyd, all your secrets will come out.
One thing I forgot to mention before about the podcast that I picked up on was, I think it was Gareth talking about how he has some employees fill out forms with their life goals, 3 to 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
I just want to say to anybody working for the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, don't do that. Do not give them your life goals. They will take that and use that similar to how they use confessions when they know something about you. And then if you ever do something that's outside of their lines, they'll be like, "Oh, well, you said your goal was to do this. Why are you doing this now?" They will use it against you. Do not give the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church or your bosses that are members of that church any of your life goals, and then he says your moral goals. Why would I be giving my boss my moral goals? And by the way, Gareth, most people in life don't need to sit down and be like, "Oh, what are my morals? Do I need to be compassionate and caring about other people? How do I make myself more moral?" People don't need to do that in normal life, Gareth. People that are brought up in cults that have problems and issues with compassion and understanding and caring about other people, like, for instance, if you think you're too holy to eat with other people, then you need to work on your morals. But the rest of us, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
My life goal, Gareth, is to get out of this church, out of this cult. That's my life goal.
Yeah. And I would actually expand on that and say that the vision surveys that have been going around right now, right, you'll see on your screen what I'm talking about. Don't fill those out. Like, you guys should not be giving the people inside there this much of your financial information. You don't have to do it. And if they come back at you, just keep throwing what their website says, what the podcasts say, what all the Daily Telegraph articles say. You are your own person, and the brethren have nothing to do with your finances. And even though that this is under the umbrella, it's making it look like they're helping you. That's not what they're doing with this information. They say it's anonymous, but really? Do you honestly think that everything you're putting inside these Vision Foundation surveys is anonymous? Absolutely not.
And guess what? It's not a legal requirement, and you are allowed to say no. And
exactly.
They're not above the law.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so another email here. Ola Bruce, I note with interest in a recent podcast how your esteemed son Gareth has always had pre-recorded worldly music when other people got into trouble for it. His explanation to Abby, I think it was, and yes it was, is that he just keeps it quiet. Righto. I also know that in previous ministry, you and your father and maybe other mogs have referred to pre-recorded worldly music as being no different to the radio. Based on Gareth's approval of worldly music, and thus your tacit approval also, I believe I can safely assume that listening to the radio is also okay, so as long as we just keep it quiet. So that's what I'm doing. Thank you for clarifying this matter up. Ciao. Well, now that this was before the podcast went out, and you see all what the boys got to do in their younger childhood years, absolutely! Don't take that radio out of your next car. It is completely okay to have that pipeline of filth come in now. The Lord has turned a corner. If it's okay for, their PR campaign, it's okay for you now. And I know that they don't really want you to see this PR campaign that they got going on. All the links to the articles are below. They're in a format that you guys can all see them. Yes, go and put the radio back in. Have a radio in your house. It's all good.
This is what we were talking about at the beginning about how this is going to come back to bite them in the ass, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One of the newspaper articles, I think one of the boys said about the radio, oh, you can't control what comes through it. Guess what? It's got a power button. You can turn it off if you don't like what you're hearing, or you can change the channel. It's quite simple.
But then that would mean people would have to think for themselves, and they don't want their congregation thinking for themselves. So then they grow up and they don't know what's right and what's wrong. Like, you guys, I hardly read any books and watch TV shows because my brain just can't handle certain stuff. So I make those choices, right? Those are the choices I make because I know what I can do and what I can't do. When you leave, you'll start learning that. You'll learn what suits you and what doesn't suit somebody beside you. Both me and my husband have totally different tastes in things. That means I don't watch similar things that he watches, right? You get to make those choices. And this next email is just showing how we receive a lot of our insider information, whether it's an audio, a letter, an email that was sent out. It says, "Hi, Cheryl. I thought you might be interested in the below email received this morning. Obviously, your hard work is rocking the boat. Keep up the good work. I look forward every day to the next podcast being released. You're exposing the shitty cult that I'm stuck in at the moment. P.S. I don't mind you publicizing the below. Please just remove my details. Best regards." Yeah, go ahead, Gilly, with the next email.
Dear Bruce, recently a letter was read out about travel. We apparently have to advise the locals of any travel before we go, get it approved, and advise the local brethren at the destination. We're to be back for weekends and not to take our wives on international travel. Plus other draconian rules. I discussed this with some other peeps later. One commented, "I just ignore that bullshit because the ones making those rules are the same ones breaking them." So true. Right at that point, one well-connected young couple were away on the other side of the world on business for a couple of weeks. Their photos were interesting. They definitely did a lot more than just business. Then another well-connected couple did the same thing. Then when I was at the airport to travel overseas recently, I saw another overseas peep guy on my flight. He had been visiting our country and was now returning to his. The interesting thing is, he wasn't on our local visitors list, which I have access to. He was also not at any of our meetings. He's also very well connected. See the pattern here? It seems like there's very much a culture of rules for thee, but not for me, in your cozy little hierarchy. It very much depends who you are, and the ordinary people in your church cult are sick of it and are quietly resisting. Your authoritarian control is only having the opposite effect and driving people underground and ultimately driving them away. Keep it up and you'll start to lose more peeps along with that very convenient income that they provide you.
And I want to add to this because recently Bruce did a meeting. It was on a Wednesday night in Melbourne. This is after the Four Corners documentary went out, and he went there to do a little bit of, what do we say, shining the dirty mirror that happened from the Four Corners Four Corners documentary. And in this meeting, he actually asked if there was any brothers or anybody in the meeting that, I'm just summarizing this. He asked if there was anybody in the meeting that was still going away on business trips, but not letting the people there know that they were there. And a bunch of young brothers put their hands up. Like, could you imagine being in a meeting where he's asking a question and then you're raising your hand to confess, right? To me, it reminded me so much of some of the stuff you heard that went on with JT Jr., right? Where he's telling people to stand up, do this, do that. And I thought, wow, Bruce, what a way to silently assert this authority without making it look like it's authority. Because I'm not sure if he says that you couldn't. I never got the rest of the story. I just heard that there was this, I got from a few insiders told me this, that people put their hands up. But it's just this way of being like, I'm watching you, don't do this, but I'm not going to say don't do this. So yes, when they come out and say we don't have any formal rules, no, they don't come out and say we have all these rules unless it's a, 2003 letter that we talked about earlier. But they do. They put out these travel bans. They put out these things that say, no, you can't do this, can't do that, you can't be here. This is a travel ban from this time. But they're not coming out and saying, these are the rules right now. So again, the same way that they don't talk about their arranged marriages, they don't talk about the rules, yet that is all implied with every step that everybody takes inside there. Okay, this goes on to say, Dear Bruce, there are people in church who discreetly refer to you as the man of grog. Just thought you'd like to know. Ciao. Again, Dear Bruce, you continue to be regarded as the man of God against the brethren. Your word is law, and everyone has to fall into line with what you say. The idea is that being the man of God or elect vessel, you have a direct line to heaven and are in constant communication with divine persons, God, who give you direction in everything you say and do. So please help me understand something. When someone has been reluctantly forced to take your advice, with you completely ignoring their concerns, and as a direct result of following your advice, the situation turns into the biggest shit show you can imagine, splitting up families and causing division amongst some meetings. Why did you give that awful advice? Was God not talking to you that day? Was your line of communication to heaven somehow severed? Bad connection, perhaps? Faulty satellite? Or is that you aren't really a man of God or anything like it? Maybe you're just an ordinary bloke called Bruce who is just winging it, making it up as you go along. Wrecking people's lives along the way, masquerading as some sort of Christian, but denying people some basic Christian values. When will you have the guts to admit that you're not special, that you're not who you say you are? Least of all, any sort of man of God. The sooner you admit this, the better, Bruce. The wheels are falling off as more and more people see right through you.
Dear Bruce, we're told that you are the all-seeing, all-knowing man of God, that you have a direct line to heaven and that God tells you everything. Based on that, I have a question for you, a very simple question. There should be no problem for you to answer if you are who you are meant to be. Here it is. Who am I? Feel free to reply to the Facebook post or simply send me a message through the Connect app. If I don't hear from you, then I'll know for certain you are who you really are. I look forward to your message.
The funny thing is we did actually put this on Facebook. This is one of our Facebook posts that we made. So it'll be interesting to see if this insider sends us a message back and see if he ever heard anything. Yeah.
I think that's a great one. Sorry. I love that. The way of challenging his magical powers, right? Like I like the writers.
Well, you did this. You did the same thing when you lived at home, didn't you, Lane?
Yeah, I did a little test. I had a porn magazine in the ceiling vent, and Bruce Hales napped in my parents' bedroom above the ceiling. So I figured if he could sense that porn mag through the ceiling, right, like through the floor underneath his bed, then he would definitely be real. Yeah, he didn't find it.
Yeah, and it goes on to say here, the Hales boys, you can post this if you want. They're now referred to as Mr. Gareth, Mr. Dean, Mr. Greg, etc., or the King's Sons, which we've heard that before.
Dear Peebs, I just had a phone call from another Peeb. They, in turn, had received a phone call from a second row Peeb, a responsible brother. His message was to just be aware that the brethren phones are being monitored. Be very careful what you say and what you do on them. They're using a covert screenshot method to record activity and also checking Google searches. UBT own your Google and Streamline account, which gives them access to your phone and the info within. So the message is getting around, and from a responsible brother, no less. Question for Bruce. Why do you feel the need for this surveillance? It's very typical of the behavior we can expect from a power-hungry dictator like China or North Korea. Anyway, Peebs, just a word of warning. Stay safe and all the best with your escape plans. Love that. Would love to know more. If that writer could reach out and maybe give the names of some of the programs that they use. I have some friends that would like to dig into that.
Yeah, and it's funny how they had that as in one of their articles, right? It was an article that they talked about this, about that none of their Streamline 3, they don't
do it at all, they said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's no
that they don't do this. Yeah. which is, we know that that's absolutely false with people who leave. I mean, we've tried helping some people leave recently that didn't quite make it out. And the reason why they didn't make it out was due to the tracking devices on their phone. So if you're leaving, and I know Dawson talked about this in his last podcast too, when you're leaving, you make sure you get rid of that UBT phone. Do not take the UBT phone for you. Check your vehicle for trackers, because this person had things tracked all on his vehicle. So they definitely use tracking stuff for people that they suspect are leaving, or maybe suspect that they are questioning things.
That screenshot thing, so my brother actually works for UBT, and I saw a video of him advertising that for business owners.
Yeah.
He was literally selling it as a good thing for business owners they have to pay an extra subscription for it. But it's just basically a constant screenshotting that monitors pretty much every move that you do on your PC.
Mm-hmm.
Spyware.
Yeah.
It's spyware.
So for them to turn around and say they don't monitor it.
On the Daily Telegraph interview, they literally laughed at it.
Yes, they did, didn't they? Yeah. Yeah, that was a very nervous laugh, though, right? I mean, when they did that laugh, I honestly wanted to cry, because so many people have been caught in the crossfires of this. There's people who are trying to access Olive Leaf Network that just have UBT phones, and this is what comes up on their phone when they try and access Olive Leaf Network. And I have to say that the Olive Leaf Network, if they are not afraid of what we're doing out here, they could actually partner with Olive Leaf Network, or anybody who has got that background to be able to transition people from inside to outside. As much as they want to say that they don't track, they don't monitor, they don't block access, yes, you do. You do all those things.
In the UK, I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but in the UK, I know of one person who tried to access domestic abuse helpline, and that was blocked.
Yeah.
That's a basic, almost another emergency service that they were in need of contacting because of the situation they were in, and they couldn't access it.
Yeah, and that's dangerous, right? Like, that's super dangerous. And the fact is that some of the software that they use, or at least some of the ones they started with, is child protection services. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that your kids can't access bad sites. So if you're inside and you're listening to this, just realize that they're using child level protection on you so that you can't access information.
Recently heard of the following event. A PBCC member was having issues with his Streamline device. He took it into a UBT office to get someone from UBT to look into it in person. The guy at UBT observed the symptoms on the device, then said, "I'll just check if this one is one of the devices we're currently surveilling." He went away, presumably checked a list, then returned to confirm that it was not one of the devices currently under surveillance. It was some other glitch. But there you have it, undeniable proof out of the mouth of a UBT staffer. They deliberately spy on their own members' devices. Bruce, why on earth do you feel the need to spy on your church members' devices? It sounds like the actions of a paranoid dictator to me. It sounds more and more like North Korea, and you're trying to find out who isn't loyal or might be bucking against the system. If your church was so great, why would anyone think of behaving like this? Maybe it's because it isn't so great. Maybe a bunch of members are seeing through it all now. Bring on the split. Dear Bruce, are you aware of the significant bullying issues within your PBCC schools? And did you know that the main perpetrators are kids of the well-connected, i.e. the bully's father is usually on the school trust or on the front row in your church, or holds some other influential position? What does that tell you about the inner workings of the PBCC? Kind of sums it up from my experience. PBCC kids join OSG after doing their first few years at public schools, and there are plenty of kids and parents who are dismayed and distressed at the bullying that goes on in your schools. Bullying that they never experienced in those terrible worldly schools. Many little kids have begged their parents to take them back to their worldly school. Plenty of kids, parents and teachers are well aware of this issue. Not a very good testimony for your wonderful schools, is it? And that's not the only issue in your schools. It's got to the point where one school global is something that teachers do not want showing on their CV. We've got to keep the indoctrination happening, eh? And what better way to do it than grab them while they're young and fill their impressionable young minds with your rubbish?
Sorry, as we're talking here, I just received an email from an insider. I'm going to read it, because it's good. Firstly, the objective of the podcast, it is simply PR. Poorly executed and completely tone-deaf PR. It will piss off a lot of people inside, us included. So now some context. I'm a young married insider. I come from a staunchly pro-Hales family, but I'm probably more outspoken and broad-minded than many on the inside. Always bent the rules, but not enough to get any major penalties. My wife had raised some inconsistencies with me about the way things are done inside early on in our marriage, and I had just basically said, let sleeping dogs lie, wanting to focus on our kids. What caused this is she had started listening to some podcasts and reading blogs of American Christian conservatives, which had really opened her eyes that we, as a church/group, were not nearly as Christian or special or enlightened as we are constantly told we are. With 2025 being an election year in Australia, I always knew there'd be some political movement. There has been in every election since the early mid-90s. Example, there was involvement in the Victorian election a year or two previous, but the level of coordination was low-key. There were definitely Zoom calls with big wigs happening, but none of us grunts were privy to them. We just went to polling booths and handed out cards and tried to pretend we weren't out of place. April 2025 came and a signal chat was made because of an edict that WhatsApp was naughty and only for business, although 90% of people still use it for their primary communications. A few locals were added, myself included, Zoom links were shared, and we jumped on dutifully. There were a few Zoom meetings with various layers of local leads, regional leads, etc. Campaigning had been happening for at least a couple of weeks before we got involved. Two things stood out here. One, there were two campaigns happening. One was a Lib campaign, example dressing as Libs, etc. The other was a non-Lib sanctioned campaign disguised as tradies and blue collar. There were rumors of people going into pubs and buying rounds of beer and leaving political stuff behind as part of this. This caused some strong reactions inside. Secondly, the swearing. It was sanctioned as a way of not being recognized as brethren, and suddenly young blokes everywhere were set free and it was flowing out of them. I have had several people tell me that since the election they have noticed how much worse it has gotten, especially amongst young people. I'm no saint on this front myself, but made a conscious effort to clean it up before I got married, as that was the standard. But apparently it's okay if you need to win. A little into the campaign, there was a series of sessions and playing in businesses all over Australia was a continuous loop video of the Hales Boys, as they are called, and a few others. I don't recall. It was a rev-up video saying how we need to get out there, out-hustle, a blue surge, taken from the Art of the Surge, the Trump doco that was referenced to. Blah, blah. I think some of it was leaked to media. Anyway, but suffice to say that the King's Son, as they are known, were clearly endorsing and promoting and almost demanding, not explicitly, but implied, 100% involvement. The most egregious claim in the whole lot was Dean, who was asking employers to let their brethren employees have time off during the week to campaign. And he said something along the lines of, I guarantee you that if Libs get in, you will more than make up for any lost profit from this campaign. I thought it was a crazy claim then, but looking back it seems even crazier. At least it was an open appeal to greed. Of course, none of this could be talked about, but meetings really fell by the wayside. During the week, most younger men were skipping it to do phone canvassing, and on the weekend, it was a skeleton crew, just older people and a few people dating not to take part. Of course, media scrutiny started. This was labeled an attack, but it was sort of the case that once the secret was out, they lied about it being organized and doubled the efforts. On election night, there were massive teams plastering every polling booth and every marginal seat. Then round-the-clock, homemade security teams to ensure no vandalism of the signs. On election day, it was manic. People were up at the crack of dawn, then driving hours, polling all day, then staying back and watching counting. After the election was called at about 8 p.m. and the campaign was over. The next day, a Sunday, the mood was so tense and depressing. I was almost glad we didn't win, as it would have emboldened any of these efforts. I was told by several people in the marginal seats that they were told to go vote for the first time in their life. Up till then, they had dutifully written their conscientious objection letters. Post this, there were meetings about how wonderful the testimony had been and how the principles remain, but the tactics change and we must accept that. The media and public had a different view on that, of course. Since then, they've been in crisis management mode. There was a letter that Get a Life has a copy of about engaging a PR firm now. With the Telegraph reporting, I just rolled my eyes. I take great delight in quoting it now if people bring up someone doing something a bit on the fringe, saying, well, we have no rules now. Back to the podcast. It is a blatant falsehood. At 2614 timestamp, the church does not campaign or support parties or coordinate volunteers at all. Quite right. The sons of the leader of the church do, not the church. Oh no, don't confuse them. The semantics are sickening. I could go on and on about this email. I'm very appreciative to all the insiders that help us out. But again, here it is. Another insider pulling back the curtain. Proof the election push was anything but spontaneous. A massive, tightly controlled campaign effort, right down to drinking at the pub and handing out middle finger stickers. Coordinated, controlled, and completely at odds with their own separation from the world doctrine. I guess that rule didn't apply when the goal was political power. Or beer and stickers. Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Interesting to see the topic of alcohol came up again on the Facebook pages. There are various stories of how BDH and Gareth put PBCC members under significant pressure to have more to drink, even when that person has said no more thanks. Some of these stories are just despicable, and people use them to justify drinking to excess. The rise of alcoholism in the PBCC is startling and of massive concern, caused by both the intense pressure and stress the members are under and the tacit approval of drinking to excess. Alcohol-related illnesses and deaths are becoming common. I actually blew up to a front row, loyal, responsible brother about it once, saying how the pressure among the PBCC to drink heavily is just wrong. It's causing so much damage among us, and the main problem is that this pressure drink comes right from the very top. To my surprise, this brother didn't tell me off my outburst against BDH, but he simply agreed and said very quietly, yes, I know. What an appalling example from a leader of a so-called Christian church. It's just...
This is so true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the one thing that you when you tell people about your background as coming from a strict Christian cult, it's the one thing they expect, or one thing that most people expect is, so you weren't allowed to touch alcohol then, because that's almost like the expected standard that any strict Christian group is, that they view alcohol as an evil, which many do. But the fact that, and the email that we saw earlier about the amount of people who are in rehab for it, it's just I think it's just a sad indictment of how bad things are in there. One under for the pressure that comes from the top to drink, but also for the people who feel they've got no other option but to cope with the situation by turning to alcohol.
And I drank with Bruce Hales and Gareth and Dean and stuff when I was in Australia, and I was 14 years old. And Gareth poured me a big fucking glass of Blue Label scotch, right, at 14. So
that's insane.
They encouraged drinking.
Yeah.
And the jokes were, because I remember I picked up on these, these things even when I was young. The joke was that, if you couldn't handle it. Oh, you can't handle it anymore? Come on. I can drink more. What, you little bitch? Come on. And I'm not saying they said that, but that was the tone, and the attitude was, oh, come on, you can't drink more? You can't handle more? Look how tough I am. I can drink more. It was competitiveness in how much you could drink.
But to do that to a 14-year-old, you'd get kicked out of a restaurant or a pub if you tried to give a child at that age drink.
It's illegal. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can confirm what Gilly said, that when I tell people about the cult I came out of, they say, so I guess this is the first time you've had alcohol when you left it. And I said no. That they're heavy drinkers, they're just dumbfounded.
Yeah. Because it is odd to find a Christian sect like this that is so heavily into the alcohol. Usually that rule gets put out right at the very beginning.
April 2024. In a recent meeting, he referred to all the opposition that is going on, re the ATO raid. Do the brethren understand that there was already an ATO audit underway? There was no need for the raid. Do the brethren understand that? Then he repeated it again later in the meeting. all said in a very strong, forceful voice. No, we're not all convinced, Bruce. And as for the opposers, he said something like, these people are all unstable. And he stretches his arm out and wiggles his hand to indicate instability. So you're clearly getting under his skin. He's being very defensive.
And the stuff that he's saying about the ATO now, like he's just really trying to find a way to hide underneath his rock that isn't a very big rock to hide under. Yeah. And another email here. So in a recent recording, BDH got a bit worked up about P businesses who are not with UBT. You think you're outside UBT? Think you can be independent? He thundered and ranted and raved about it. Clearly not happy about it. I'll try and get the actual wording for you if I can. And then another one. Brucey raised the subject of Aberdeen again recently. He must find it a real threat if he keeps talking about it. Anyway, he was quite worked up, virtually yelling things like, there was no evidence, and people believed a lie. So Brucey, I have a question for you. Let's put aside whether anything lewd did or didn't happen. However, it certainly looked like something lewd happened, and therefore had the appearance of evil. And haven't PBCC members been booted out in the past for doing things that had the appearance of evil? It just doesn't pass a sniff test, Brucey. People do have eyes, ears, and brains, you know. They can work this stuff out and see for what it is. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and sounds like a duck, ...
Another thing for the PBCC to think about. Everyone on the insider will be familiar with being frequently admonished to abstain from anything that would even have the appearance of evil. Even if you weren't involved in the evil itself, we must keep away from anything that has the appearance of evil. Some people have been in trouble for this in the past, but that's all good, right? Makes perfect sense, right? So then, how do you reconcile the Aberdeen incident?
Yeah, the Aberdeen thing, he really has been going on about the Aberdeen thing in the last few months. I want to say like last 5-6 months, trying to really stay on top with the narrative within there. But I think a lot of insiders do see through it. There are those that refuse to see anything past what has been presented to them, that it was all a lie and it was just this thing to, draw out the opposers. Which honestly, I think that's what's happening right now. I really do think that this is how the Aberdeen moment is being brewed right now, is they're going out and saying what they're saying. Anybody who's not going to go along with their lies, obviously A, are going to get so irate they're going to show themselves, B, leave, or C, get caught in they're going to get caught in talking against all these lies again, which will get you booted out. So I do think that this is how they're drawing the line in their sand and creating an arena where they can find out who is with them and who is against them.
And if anyone's got any doubts or questions about the Aberdeen, go and listen to the podcast with Ian Albon, I think his name was, who was actually there and gives first-hand witness of what it was like. Yeah. And you'll soon have your questions answered.
Yeah, there's a lot of Aberdeen podcasts. Bradley McCallum did a few. We had Ian Arbin. We had also Neville McCallum did one on Aberdeen too. So and these are all people that were either there, around there, or had diaries. Like Bradley McCallum knew a lot about Aberdeen just from his own experiences with his grandfather.
Some years ago, BDH said, if anyone has lost faith in the system, then you never had faith to start with. He thundered. This is very wrong. There are many in the PBCC who were once 100% loyal and had 100% faith in the system. But then the system had been shown up for what it is, a commercial and financial hierarchical entity based on internal politics and wealth, not a simple Christian church anymore. This has caused many people to eventually realise they cannot continue to defend such an organisation. The scales have fallen from the eyes of many in your PBCC, Bruce. A lot of once loyal members are distressed at the direction of the PBCC, and more people are quietly using the word cult in their conversations. Slowly, these people are connecting with each other. And as for the loud voice basically shouting, it doesn't help your cause, Bruce. The saints don't appreciate being shouted. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 17. The words of the wise heard in quietness are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools.
Dear PBCC, you will all well remember a famous comment by BDH's right-hand man, Dr. Roger Kirkpatrick. Half the brethren are on antidepressants and the other half need to be. Oh, it was treated as a bit of a laugh at the time, but stop and think seriously about this. What sort of a community would have such a bad effect on its members' mental health that it results in this awful condition being so prevalent? And if the community was as good as it claims to be, then why all the mental health issues in there? And how does that fit in with the community claiming to be Christian? Surely this is the opposite effect of what a Christian community should be. Or maybe Christianity is just a facade for what is widely accepted as a cult. Wow, this one is really good. Mm-hmm. Mental health is such a important thing, and it's become a lot more prevalent in the whole world, right? And to think that a creator of the entire universe would have a special little group and have a golden phone line, as it was referred to, which I think is hilarious, and have all these mental health issues. What is that? Why are they being punished with depression for being in the perfect church? Maybe it's not perfect.
Yeah. And I mean, I know they say that all churches have their issue. They do. But when you claim to be the one true Christian church, your church then should equal that claim that you're making. Those people, there should be people flocking to get inside your doors. There should be people there should be no bullying. There should be no sexual abuse. There's a list that I could go through of what should not be happening in there if you are claiming to be the one true church. So as we're sitting here talking, I've had an email come in from an insider, and I'm going to read it out. I've been given permission. I was listening to your podcast with Dawson Ching the other day, and you said something about how can these people, Lloyd Grimshaw types, etc., treat people in this way. As we all know, there is very little empathy in the PBCC when someone departs from the official line or is a bit different, and any love and help is transactional. But if you look at the people at the very top of the PBCC who set the tone for everything, you'll notice some patterns. The Hales family, BDH has obviously been scarred as a young kid from his family's shame, and there seems to be a streak of mental nuttiness and megalomania in the Hales family going way back, so this combines into a toxic stew of arrogance and entitlement, and they've never ever been told no about anything, so feeling empathy or walking a mile in someone else's shoes is just not something they would even be aware of, let alone capable of doing. Then you have the Hales lieutenants and trusted cronies like Lloyd Grimshaw. They all come from families that have been part of the establishment for decades or centuries in some case, who have always been well moneyed and had connections and opportunities laid out in front of them. None of these people have ever been in a situation where they are a social outcast or have been shafted and have no one in their corner or been hungry or destitute. They've always had money, means, fame, and people wanting to suck up to them. If they have a family member who deviates from the PBCC norm, it is shame. They want to get rid of them as quickly as possible to not affect their social standing. Or if they come up against some person who is struggling with something that can't easily be fixed by money or bullying, they lose patience quickly and resort to thuggish treatment. They cannot understand or empathize with someone going through this because they've never been in an uncomfortable position in their lives. Well, maybe when their local competitor gets a newer model Audi or Range Rover, they feel discomfort. Then you get poor ignorant people who I assume Dawson's father would be in this category. However, I've never met him and don't know him, so I'm speaking generically. These people aren't high level, but they are clever enough to want to be part of something bigger than themselves and suffer from Stockholm syndrome as a hangover from the Simonton Holocaust years and think like, I must get all my family through and I must give comfort to our brother, are such powerful triggers that when they come across a situation where someone is struggling, even if they sympathize with the person or want to help, they are so scared from all the PBCC programming that they are paralyzed and cannot act in any different way. It's really sad, to be honest. Another interesting point in the Daily Telegraph interview is Dean Hales gives what he sees as his 3 criteria for a cult. I guess you can't run through the list of the full 10 points of a cult because it'd be too obvious. You may meet basically all of them, which are: we don't recruit members. Okay, technically true in the sense of active proselytizing, but you do lock in all new members from birth, so this is a type of recruitment. A cult has total control of members and movement. Well, you really want to argue this point? As you say, there aren't explicit rules about a lot of things now. Debatable, but we'll give you the benefit of the doubt here. But there are utterings of daddy and grandpappy in the ministry that local enforcers the globe over wield over brethren with an iron rod that are damn like rules, and good luck trying to actively and publicly do or say anything that is in contradiction to general peep orthodoxy or what daddy says. Boy, oh boy. And the big kahuna? A cult does brainwashing? Well, let's look up the official definition of brainwashing, shall we? And then this person says, see below. A few comments on this. First, separation meets one of these criteria, cutting people off from outside influences. Then you have the meeting every day, which all that is control of people's movements because you have to be at the meeting or face social consequences. Then there is the constant repetition of PBCC doctrine, which is designed to shift and change your thinking and loyalties. And this is done by excluding all other influences, which may render the PBCC message not as effective. Every single one on this list of brainwashing definition, the PBC meets in a slam dunk, creating an environment of social pressure and using rewards for compliance while punishing non-cooperation. I think every single PB would admit this definitely is what happens. So we have a situation where Dean has admitted with his own mouth the criteria to be a cult, and if you analyze these criteria, even with the most generous view, the PBCC meets every single one of them. So Dean himself has really admitted the PBCC is a cult. This is hilarious. Brainwash means to be systematically persuaded to adopt new beliefs, loyalties, or action through forceful or manipulative psychological techniques, often against one's will or without full awareness. This process involves controlling someone's environment and isolating them from former influences, creating an environment of social pressure, and using rewards for compliance while punishing non-cooperation. Key aspects of brainwashing: systemic manipulation, coercion and force, psychological techniques, destroying old loyalties, indoctrination, colloquial use, and you'll see on the screen here the definitions. I'm not going to go through all of them. It's interesting that all the separation meeting every day, assembly calendar, and MOG worship stuff came in the 1960s under JT Jr. I have seen lots of speculation that WBH and JSH were the originators of these ideas and used JT Jr. to promote and push them. Now, if you want to take over a stodgy global church and turn it into a money-making business for personal family gain and cloak it in the cover of religion for tax purposes and to deflect scrutiny, what would you need to do to carry this out? You would need to isolate everyone in the group. You would need to knock them off balance and keep them busy and bedazzled and also brainwash them into the new doctrine. Then you can launch your commercial system and milk them for money, time, and resources. This is exactly what separation, a meeting every day, achieved. It cut everyone off from baseline normal, knocked them off balance, and kept them too busy to think while attending endless meetings and activities where they were constantly subjected to consistent brainwashing, which over the generations replaces their baseline normal and they become just droids of the system. Ingenious. If you are in the Hales family or close courtier, milking all the benefits, but pretty shit if you are anyone else. Unfortunately, there are a lot of peebs, still like the horse called Boxer in Animal Farm, busy getting used and abused while trudging on saying, I must work harder. Our beloved brother cannot fail. Wow.
That was really
pretty good. Yeah.
Wow.
I think in that Daily Mail, Daily Telegraph interview with Charles asking Dean, oh, what's a cult, Dean? That's just ridiculous for them to ask each other what's a cult. It's like Hitler saying to Himmler, what is evil? And then, describing to each other what evil is. It's just crazy.
I think what that writer shows too is how COVID really fucked the church in a good way, right? Because all of a sudden they did have the freedom of not going to church every day. And look at years later, they're still struggling in these rumors about going back to having breaks every week and going back to, church every Friday. And they're resisting it. They're hating it because having that break from COVID and not having your life every single day run by the cult gave them a tiny taste of having some freedom, right? And they're trying to bring them all back to going to daily meetings, and they don't want to.
Yeah, I agree.
Dear PBCC, you have been told all your life that only your church has been given the special light, and that the PBCC is the only true church and the only way to heaven, via BDH, of course. But did you know that how many others say the same thing? No? I'll tell you. 40,000. I'll say it again. 40,000. Yes, globally, there are an estimated 40,000 different registered religious cults and religious organizations, each one of them preaching and believing that only they have been given special light. And of course, each of these will have their own BDH-like leaders claiming the same thing. Follow me and I'll lead you to heaven. And if you leave, then you'll probably weren't saved anyway. And if you leave, then you'll be damned for eternity. That sort of thing. But now, if you stand back and look at yourselves with a wider perspective, you can only conclude that the PBCC is one of 40,000 deluded organizations who all claim that they are the only true church. They can't all be right. Can they? In fact, maybe they're all wrong. Not so special now, is it? Sorry to prick your bubble. Maybe it's just a man-made cult. I love that one particularly. It's so true. There's so many other ones.
I do believe, though, that there are Christian churches out here that don't get into an ego state of what preachers are sending to their congregation. I do firmly believe that there are religions that wholeheartedly are mainstream Christian churches that are just there to study the Bible. I do believe that exists. But there are a lot, like this email says, that have believed that they are the one true way to get to heaven.
There's great Christian church. There's great Muslim churches. There's great, right? There's great Jewish synagogues. The point, I think, what the writer's saying here is there's 40,000 of them, and they all do think that their way is the good way, right?
Exactly.
40,000. And that's not just Christian. That's, across all religions.
Most of those 40,000 are probably little ones, little weird cults saying they're special and the Lord only comes to us and that sort of thing. Currently, I go to a Baptist church, which is quite a common church, and they definitely don't think they're special. And people from our church, they might stop coming to a Baptist and go to an Anglican church, and people are still friends with them, and they might come back to visit next Sunday or in a couple of months' time, and they come and go, and that's perfectly normal amongst Christian churches. All the special stuff is just bullshit.
Yeah.
Can I just read out something? I included it in a presentation I did about it's a slide called "Recognizing How Cultic Groups Operate," and there's 10 points that I just really love for people to actually listen to, and actually just take a step back, listen to, and actually recognize the points that are actually so true throughout the piece. So the first one is, does your group show unquestioning commitment to its leader, alive or dead? Yes. Are doubts and questions discouraged or punished? Yes.
Yes.
Are mind-altering techniques such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, and sleep deprivation or overworking used in excess, which unwittingly or not often serve to suppress doubts about the group and its leadership? So, sleep deprivation and overworking.
Overworked, yeah.
Overworking, that would tick that box.
Yeah.
Does the leadership dictate how members should think, act, and feel? How they should dress and where they should live and whom they should marry?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you fear backlash to yourself or others if you leave or even consider leaving the group? Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Does the group feel they're on a special mission to save humanity? Do they see their leader as a special being or an avatar?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does the group have an us versus them mentality? Yes.
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 Does the leadership induce feelings of shame or guilt in order to influence or control members? Often this is often done through peer pressure and subtle forms of persuasion. Yes.
100%.
Does the group require members to cut ties with families and friends or to radically alter the personal goals and activities members had before they joined? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the group preoccupied with bringing in new members and or making money?
Yes.
Yes. You've just ticked every single one of those boxes. I would just love people to seriously think about those points and just actually analyze, what are we part of?
Yeah.
I think that's really important, Gilly. Like, go over that list. If you're in there and you're having questions, go over that, tick it off, right? We're talking about these other religions and other cults. This list wasn't made for the exclusive brethren. It was made because the exclusive brethren and the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church are not that unique. We think they are in the sense of some of the things they preach and teach, but as a cult, they're not. They're not that unique. This list was made for other cults, and yet they fit every single one.
That list that Giddy read out is very common, and there's lots of similar lists around. You just have to Google what is a cult, and you'll come up with very similar lists, and lots of them. It's not hard. Gilly hasn't had to do much research. It's not like he's looked around and found the list that suits the brethren. They're just all over the place.
No, and this list actually says that the title of it is: the following questions are adapted from a checklist developed by Michael D. Langone, PhD, Executive Director of International Cultic Studies Association. This list is not a diagnostic tool. It's only meant to help you analyze for yourself whether you may have cause for concern based on common patterns found in cultic groups. So it's nothing to do with the peeps. It's a standard list of cultic behaviors.
Yeah.
And we've just ticked every single one.
And it's funny, out of the last podcast that went out, there was a little bit of a controversy on the comments of the podcast of obviously an insider coming on and being like, this isn't a cult, right? So to the people that come back in the comments and be like, no, this isn't a cult, unfortunately, it is. And we're not here to degrade you over being in a cult. We understand you were born into it, but it's just helping you understand what you're sitting in, right? You need to know what you're sitting in so that you can make your own. You can stay there. I have no issue. You guys can stay in a cult. Absolutely. I mean, there's lots of cults in this world, but just ask yourself, is it serving you or is it harming somebody that's close to you? That's what you need to ask yourself. So this is the very, very last, one of the last ones. Obviously, you guys, I have so many emails. This is just things that I've took out. Dear PBCC, a while back, BDH told his congregation we have a year left. I believe it's in print in those little white books. Anyway, that date passed quite a while ago, and sure enough, here's a detailed list of what happened on that date. Bullet pointed for easy reference. 1, which is blank. 2 is blank. 3 is blank. 4 is blank. 5 is blank. Yup, that's exactly what happened. Nothing. Are the scales falling from your eyes yet?
Love that. I remember as a kid, I was really fascinated with the prediction stuff. I always would ask my mom, my dad, even my grandparents about these predictions that Bruce Hales could have about the world and everything. And I was always interested in the rapture, right? Okay, so when is it? What are the warning signs again? Okay, when, and I remember them. And then I remember my mom telling me, and she didn't like saying it. I could tell it was awkward for her to say it, but she admitted to me that the previous leaders, Symington, John Hales, they'd also predicted that the rapture would happen in their time. And then she let slip that pretty much every leader had predicted that the rapture would come in their time. And I was like, I remember just as a kid, I was like, they're all saying this? To me, that was saying they were all wrong, right? Every single time their predictions have been wrong. So I remember just as young, I'm just like, these predictions are really shitty. Like, they're really bad at this crystal ball stuff.
But Don Hales said it was supposed to happen in '96, and when it didn't, when Bruce Hales got into power, he said it was because the Brethren weren't ready. And then then Bruce Hales said in 2012 that we got 10 years left. Still here.
Yeah. Well, I actually hope this helps the insiders, understand what they're walking through, also what we're walking through, And I actually there's a funny video that came to us this morning. It was quite hilarious. So I'm going to end with this video. This is obviously a comedic relief for everybody, because people are going to be like, that's AI. Yes, it is obviously AI, and it's been made up, but it's quite funny. So anyhow, to everybody who has written into us, we really, really, really appreciate it. Your words do matter. They are part of the growing record that the world is obviously finally hearing you all. And if you're listening from inside and some of these stories hits home, know this, you aren't alone. There are people on the outside that are ready to help you, ready to believe you, and ready to stand beside you when you take those steps. You can continue emailing us at info.getalife@proton.me and get your voices heard. Have your side told while you're enduring the battles that are happening inside there. The light is getting in. The walls are cracking. And no amount of PR spin can silence what really is going on inside the PBCC. Thank you guys for joining me. Until next time, much love to you all. Bye-bye. We have received an overwhelming response from insiders since this podcast series started, and we'll follow up with another podcast with those messages to Bruce Hales and his 4 sons. If you are inside and wanting to get your message through to the Hales clan, email us at info.getalife@proton.me and we will read them out for you. How can you support Get a Life podcast? You can donate internationally via PayPal at www.paypal.me/getalifepodcast. Or you can scan the QR code on your screen that takes you to our GoFundMe. Every donation helps keep this project alive. If you are in a high-demand religious group and need help, please go to oliveleaf.network. To share your story or be a guest on the show, email info.getalife@proton.me. You can find all our Get a Life merchandise on our website at www.getalife.net. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to Get a Life, and comment.